tuned in to the Andrew Lawton Show.
Let's just drill down for a moment here on the math on this, on the economics, because the government says that the only way we can fill the labor shortage is through immigration. Okay, there's some basis for immigrants being necessary to filling up the workforce when there are vacancies. But the government is claiming that there's not actually going to be a housing issue because when we have more immigrants, we'll be building more houses. That's the argument they're putting forward, and it's one that didn't quite add up to my colleague Cosmin Dzsurdzsa, host of The Daily Brief and a fantastic investigative journalist at True North who joins me now. Cosmin, thanks for coming on the show here. What do you make of this here? Where is the government getting this idea from that houses will just be built, a dime a dozen once we open the floodgates on immigration?
Yeah, I think it's preposterous, and in my piece, I call it a myth. It doesn't really make sense that immigrants are going to come to Canada and suddenly start building houses. When you look at the statistics, last month, Statistics Canada released the labor survey, and it found that 45,000 construction jobs were lost. The month before that, it was about 16,000. So it really doesn't add up. Where are these immigrants that are building houses?
Yeah, it's a valid question. And I know, and you and I spoke about this a little on the Daily Brief yesterday, a lot of them go into the service sector, and we know there are vacancies in that sector. I mean, we've all had issues where you try to get your coffee poured and it takes, like 25 minutes or something because no one's working at whatever the local cafe is. And yeah, that's a thing that happens. But these are jobs that are very low paying jobs. They're not a job that you're ever going to be able to build a house with, a salary on, typically in cities like Toronto or Vancouver especially, whereas construction jobs pay considerably well, and you can actually do very well with this. So why is this not happening? Has there been any research done into this? Has there been any effort to get people into that track? Because that's an area where we desperately need labor in Canada.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's been much research. When I looked at the statistics from 2019, it shows that the most popular jobs for immigrants are service jobs, healthcare jobs, bureaucratic jobs. They're not necessarily coming here building the infrastructure that we need to sustain such high levels of immigration. They're all going to high density areas. You mentioned this earlier. And with that comes a host of problems like increases in rent, increases in the price of increases in the price of goods. Also, high density areas generally have higher rates of crime. We see this happening in Toronto and Vancouver and other major cities. So what solutions are the Liberal government proposing? None, really. What Mark Miller said last week was that he wants to increase the number of immigrants. He's proposing to actually make it even higher than the 1 million target every 2 years we have right now. Yet we know that there's not enough houses being built. So I'm not sure. I don't think they even have a solution to the housing crisis. And a part of me thinks that there's a cynical sort of desire to keep the housing prices high.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, I want to drill down on that point with you in a second, but I would also add here that this is not an issue of saying, oh, immigrants are making things difficult for native-born Canadians, because immigrants are making it difficult for other immigrants. And I don't mean that in a way that is blaming them individually, but it also means that people that are coming to Canada in 2 years are dealing with what I'd say is a bill of goods that's been sold to them that's not really here, that you can have this economic fortune in Canada when they come here and find that the immigrants that came in a year and 2 years before them are still looking for homes as well, and there's nothing left for them.
No, you're absolutely right. And I immigrated here with my family in 2003. And back then in Kitchener, where we lived, you could rent a 3-bedroom apartment for about $1,000 a month. And that let my parents get the necessary accreditation and the training they needed to enter the professional workforce while they were doing, cleaning jobs and watching the kids. So I don't think that is an opportunity that is present to many new immigrants anymore. They have to get full-time jobs, both parents usually, and then they're left stuck in a position that they didn't see themselves being in the first place. So I think these high levels of immigration targets were actually cheapening the immigration experience, we're making it worse for the new immigrants. And as a country, we should pride ourselves on providing a flourishing and positive experience when we come to Canada. So making it worse is simply not the solution.
Cosmin Dzsurdzsa, host of the Daily Brief and an investigative journalist here at True North. Thanks so much, Cosmin.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to The Andrew Lawton Show. Support the program by donating to True North at www.tnc.news.